The vast, bleak landscape of Delta 7 stretched endlessly, a forbidding world teeming with creatures straight out of a nightmare. Amidst towering rock formations and swirling mists, Zara, the alien princess, found herself alone. The harsh winds whipped her flowing garments as she gazed up at the departing silhouette of her own royal ship, now a speck against the gray skies. Suddenly, the ground shook underfoot. A monstrous gruel, with its tusks dripping with venom, emerged from a nearby crevice. Zara stumbled back, her royal training in diplomacy useless against the primal ferocity of her new environment. Just as the creature lunged, a shot rang out. The gruel collapsed, mere inches from her. Zara spun around to see a human, his weapon still smoking. His rugged appearance was offset by the cautious empathy in his eyes. He approached, holstering his weapon. "Are you hurt?" he asked in a translator-modulated voice. "No, thanks to you," Zara replied, dusting herself off. She assessed the man, medium build, with a rough beard and eyes that had seen too much. He seemed like a survivor, hardened by circumstances rather than birthright. "I'm Nathan," he introduced himself, offering a hand to help her up. "Looks like we're both stuck here, huh?" Zara took his hand, her own grip firm. "I am Zara. I was left here, by my own kind." Nathan nodded, not pressing further. It was common enough in the wild expanses of space to find beings betrayed and abandoned. "This planet isn't kind to visitors. You'll need allies here." Together, they trudged towards a rocky outcrop, where Nathan had set up a makeshift camp. The remnants of his spacecraft lay scattered around, a sobering reminder of his own crash landing weeks earlier. "So, what brings a princess to a death trap like Delta 7? Nathan finally asked as they sat down by a small fire he had kindled. Zara looked into the flames. "Exile. I opposed a war with your kind, humans. My pacifism was deemed treason." Nathan's expression hardened at the mention of war. "Humans aren't fond of it either, but we fight when cornered." Zara sensed the weight of his words. "I wanted peace. I still do." Nathan poked at the fire, sparks flying into the cold air. "Peace is a luxury on a planet like this. Here you fight or you die, sometimes both." As the fire crackled between them, an uneasy silence settled. Zara considered Nathan's words. Here, in this alien landscape, old titles and politics seemed distant and irrelevant. Survival was the immediate royalty demanded here. Nathan broke the silence. "We'll need a better shelter than this if you're going to last the night. This planet's creatures are more active after dark." Zara stood, ready to follow his lead. "Teach me." For hours, they worked together, collecting materials and reinforcing the shelter. Nathan showed her how to extract drinkable water from the lichen-like plants and which of the native tubers were edible. As they worked, Zara found herself adapting to the rhythms of this harsh world, her former life slipping further away with each passing hour. Nathan's practical knowledge and her quick learning created a dynamic of mutual respect, tempered by the shared urgency of their situation. By the time the twin moons rose high in the sky, casting a ghostly glow over the land, they had fortified a small cave against the night's predators. Exhausted but secure, they settled in for the night, the sounds of distant roars a grim lullaby. "This will do for tonight," Nathan said, checking the perimeter one last time. "Tomorrow, we plan our next move." Zara nodded, her gaze lingering on the horizon where her home planet might be. Here, on Delta 7, far from the court intrigues and the soft lies of the palace, she found a harsh truth. A truth where survival depended not on one's title, but on one's mettle and the loyalty of unlikely allies. As they turned in, the fire dwindling to embers, Zara felt the first stirrings of a grim determination. Whatever lay ahead, she was no longer the helpless princess waiting for rescue. She was a survivor, and she was not alone. The dawn on Delta 7 broke with a crimson hue, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape. Zara emerged from the cave, her eyes scanning the horizon, still adjusting to the harsh realities of her new world. Nathan was already up, tinkering with a makeshift device constructed from parts of his crashed spacecraft. "Good morning," Nathan called out without looking up. "Sleep well?" "Better than I expected," Zara replied, joining him. "What are you working on?" "A distress beacon, sort of. It's more of a locator. It won't reach far into space, but it should help us keep track of each other if we get separated." He handed her what looked like a rugged wristband. "Here, put this on. It'll buzz if you wander too far from camp or if I activate it." Zara strapped it to her wrist, noting the practicality of such a device on this unpredictable planet. "Thank you, Nathan. I realize I am not yet fully prepared to face this place alone." Nathan shrugged, a ghost of a smile on his face. "None of us really are. This planet has a way of changing plans and people." They spent the morning expanding their makeshift camp. Nathan's survival skills were invaluable, and Zara was a quick study, absorbing every piece of advice and instruction he gave. They set up traps for the smaller creatures and collected edible roots and fruits Nathan pointed out. As they worked, Nathan initiated small talk, a clear attempt to make her feel more at ease. "So, Zara, princess of the Tyrillian sector," she filled in, digging into the soil with a sharp stick. "My world is very different from this. We value knowledge, art, history. Here it feels like time has no meaning, and life hangs by a thread." Nathan nodded, understanding the sentiment. "I was a pilot, part of an exploration team. Our mission was to chart uninhabited planets for potential resources. Never thought I'd end up marooned on one of them." Their conversation was interrupted by a rustling from the bushes. Instinctively, Nathan raised his weapon, but what emerged was no monstrous creature. It was another human. The stranger was disheveled, his uniform torn. "Please, don't shoot," he exclaimed, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. Nathan lowered his weapon but remained cautious. "Who are you? How did you end up here?" "My name's Eli," the man gasped, catching his breath. "I was part of a geological survey. Our ship was attacked, by pirates, I think. I escaped in a pod but landed here a few weeks ago." Zara stepped forward, her diplomatic instincts taking over. "You are welcome to join us, Eli. We too are stranded. Together, perhaps we can improve our chances of survival." Eli nodded gratefully, looking between Nathan and Zara. "Thank you. I've been hiding, trying to avoid the creatures. It's been rough." As they returned to camp, Nathan watched Eli closely, aware that adding another survivor to their group could change the dynamics of their small community. However, Zara's welcoming nature and her eagerness to build alliances, even in the most dire of circumstances, reminded him of the value of numbers. Over a meal of roasted tubers, Eli shared his knowledge of the planet's geology, pointing out safer areas and those rich in resources. His expertise complemented Nathan's survival skills and Zara's leadership, slowly weaving him into the fabric of their daily routine. That evening, as they sat around the fire, Nathan felt a sense of camaraderie he hadn't experienced since his days in the Exploration Corps. Despite the dangers surrounding them, the trio found solace in their shared humanity, a bond forged not just by circumstance but by the shared resolve to survive and perhaps one day escape the deadly clutches of Delta 7. The early morning mist enveloped the rugged terrain of Delta 7 as Nathan, Zara, and Eli fortified their camp. The recent addition of Eli to their small group had brought a slight shift in dynamics, his geological expertise proving invaluable in navigating the planet's treacherous landscape. While Eli mapped out safer routes and resource-rich zones, Nathan took the lead in reinforcing their shelter. He instructed Zara in crafting rudimentary weapons from the scattered debris and natural materials found around their site. "You're getting the hang of this," Nathan remarked as Zara successfully fashioned a sharp spear from a sturdy branch and some metal scraps. "It feels like a different kind of artistry," Zara responded, examining her handiwork with a mix of pride and melancholy. "Where I come from, we would be discussing strategies at a round table, not crafting weapons for survival." Eli joined them, wiping sweat from his brow. "This planet doesn't care much for royalty or rank, does it? Out here, it's all about what you can do with your own two hands." The trio took a short break, sharing a meal of the edible roots that Nathan had discovered. As they ate, their conversation veered towards their plans for the future. "We need to think about long-term survival," Nathan said, his tone serious. "Eli's maps have shown us where we might find more stable shelter, possibly even some natural defenses. We should consider moving." Zara nodded in agreement. "And we need to improve our signaling capabilities. If there's a chance of rescue, we must increase our chances of being found." Eli pulled out a set of crinkled, hand-drawn maps. "There are cave systems to the north that could serve as a more secure base. Plus, the rock formations are unusual. There might be minerals we can use to boost our transmitter signal." The decision made, they spent the afternoon preparing for the journey. As they packed, Zara's communicator, a relic of her royal past, suddenly crackled to life, surprising them all. A garbled message came through, speaking of a rescue mission, but giving no clear details on timing or location. "It's a long shot," Zara said after the static had died down. "But someone out there might be looking for us." "That's the best news we've had in days," Eli said with a hopeful smile. Their spirits lifted. They set out at dawn the next day, heading towards the cave systems Eli had recommended. The journey was treacherous, the landscape of Delta 7 unforgiving. They encountered several predatory creatures, which they managed to evade or overcome thanks to their combined efforts. As they traveled, Nathan taught Zara and Eli survival tactics, such as how to read the terrain and weather patterns, which plants were safe for medicinal purposes, and effective ways to camouflage their presence from predators. "Each day teaches us something new," Zara mused as they navigated a narrow gorge. "It's adapt or die," Nathan replied. "You've both shown you can do more than just survive. You're learning to thrive." By the time they reached the cave systems, the bond between them had solidified. They were no longer just three stranded individuals. They had become a unit, a makeshift family forged by necessity and mutual respect. Inside the cave, they found natural protection from the elements and a vantage point that offered a panoramic view of the surrounding area. It was an ideal spot for their new base. As they settled in, Nathan rigged up the enhanced transmitter, using a rare mineral Eli had identified to boost its signal. Zara prepared the broadcast message, repeating their coordinates and their situation. That night, as they huddled around a small fire in the cave, the isolation of Delta 7 felt less oppressive. With each other's company and the faint hope of rescue, they faced the future not as exiles or castaways, but as pioneers. "We've come a long way from where we started," Nathan said, looking around at his companions. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Zara and Eli nodded, the firelight reflecting in their determined eyes. On a planet that offered little hope, they had found a way to create their own. Inside the dimly lit cavern, the flickering fire cast long shadows on the walls as Zara, Nathan, and Eli settled in for the evening. The atmosphere was heavy, laden with the weight of their shared hardships. Yet a newfound solidarity had woven its way through the group, strengthening their resolve. As Nathan meticulously checked their equipment, ensuring everything was in order for the coming days, Zara appeared more contemplative than usual, her gaze lost in the dancing flames. Eli noticed her distant demeanor and nudged her gently. "You've been quiet tonight, Zara. Something on your mind?" Zara sighed, her voice soft but clear. "I've been thinking about the reasons that led me here, the politics and betrayals of my own people." She paused, her eyes meeting Eli's. "I haven't shared much about the intricacies of what happened." Nathan set aside his work, his interest piqued. "You mentioned opposition to a war with humans, but what exactly transpired?" Drawing a deep breath, Zara began to unravel the tangled web of her past. "My home, the Tyrillian sector, has been at peace for centuries. But recently, a faction within our ruling elite pushed for expansion. They wanted to claim new territories, human territories, believing it was our right to expand and control." Eli frowned, the implications clear. "And you oppose this?" "Fervently," Zara confirmed. "I advocated for dialogue, for peaceful coexistence, but my views were seen as weak, unpatriotic. The council was divided, but the Warhawks were persuasive and dangerous." Nathan listened intently, his experience as a pilot having taught him the brutal realities of such conflicts. "So they decided you were too much of a threat to their plans?" "Exactly," Zara nodded. "During a critical vote, I was accused of treason, of conspiring with humans. It was all fabricated, of course, but it gave them the justification they needed to remove me. Exile was their method, out of sight, out of mind." The revelation struck a chord with both men, the echo of deceit and manipulation all too familiar in the vast expanse of space where power often trumped truth. "So they left you here, on Delta 7, to ensure your silence," Eli concluded, anger lacing his tone. Zara's expression hardened with resolve. "But I am not silenced. Not yet. This planet, as harsh as it is, has given me a clarity I lacked in the palace. Here, survival means honesty, transparency, traits my people need now more than ever." Nathan nodded, his respect for Zara deepening. "And we're here with you. Whatever your next move, you have our support." The conversation shifted as they began to discuss potential strategies for contacting Zara's allies who might still be sympathetic to her cause. Eli, with his knowledge of geology and technology, proposed a plan to enhance their signal further, potentially enough to breach the blockade of communication jammers her enemies likely employed. With the right minerals and a bit of luck, we might just break through the static. Eli mused, his mind racing through the possibilities. As they planned, the trio grew more animated, the cave around them no longer just a shelter, but a makeshift command center against tyranny. They worked late into the night, drawing up diagrams and schematics, their combined skills complementing each other in ways they could scarcely have imagined when they first met. By the time they retired for the night, a new sense of purpose had taken root among them. They were no longer merely survivors fighting for their next meal or safe shelter. They were allies, united against a common enemy, ready to take a stand not just for their own survival, but for the principles Zara stood for. Lying in her makeshift bed, Zara felt a stirring of hope. The fire had died down to embers, but the spark it ignited in each of them burned brightly. Delta 7, a place of exile and death, might just become the birthplace of a revolution. Under the dull glow of Delta 7's twin moons, the atmosphere within the cave was charged with a palpable sense of urgency. Nathan, Zara, and Eli had spent the last few days enhancing their communications setup, each tweak and adjustment bringing them closer to reaching out beyond the planet's oppressive silence. Eli's latest modification had successfully amplified the signal, but it wasn't long before their efforts attracted unwanted attention. As the trio gathered around their equipment one evening, the crackling of underbrush signaled an intrusion. Nathan was the first to react, his hand instinctively going to the sidearm at his belt as three figures emerged from the shadows into the light of their campfire. They were not monstrous creatures, but alien hunters, their sleek armor glinting under the firelight. Zara stood up, her posture regal despite the clear danger. "I know why you're here," she said calmly, addressing the leader of the group. "You're sent by those who wish me dead." The leader, a tall figure with piercing eyes, nodded slightly. "Princess Zara, you are accused of treason against the Tyrillian sector. You must return with us to stand trial." Nathan stepped forward, positioning himself subtly between Zara and the hunters. "She's under our protection," he declared firmly, "and we don't hand over friends to be executed." Eli, though not a fighter, stood his ground as well, his loyalty to Zara and Nathan clear in his determined gaze. The standoff was tense, each party assessing the other. Zara, understanding the potential for bloodshed, sought a diplomatic resolution. "I propose a parley," she suggested. "Hear my side, see the evidence we have gathered about the corruption within our sector. Help us expose the truth." The leader hesitated, his gaze flickering between his comrades. It was clear they were not ordinary soldiers. They were special operatives, possibly with some autonomy to make decisions. After a moment, he nodded. "We will listen. But know this, Princess. Our orders are clear, and if we find your words lacking, we will fulfill our duty." The group sat around the fire, an uneasy peace settling as Zara explained her opposition to the war and the political maneuvers that had led to her exile. Nathan and Eli contributed, detailing their own observations of her character and intentions. As the discussion unfolded, it became evident that there were doubts among the hunters about the legitimacy of their orders. The leader, whose name was revealed to be Rael, listened intently, his expression increasingly troubled. "Why would our leaders not want peace?" Rael finally asked, a note of genuine confusion in his voice. "What you say about expansion at the cost of others' sovereignty. It is not the way of our ancestors." Zara seized the moment, her voice persuasive. "Help us bring this evidence to the public. With your testimony, we can challenge the warmongers and restore honor to our governance." The proposal was risky, the implications far-reaching. A long silence followed her words, the crackle of the fire punctuating the tension. Finally, Rael stood, his decision made. "We will assist you, Princess Zara. Not as soldiers, but as citizens of the Tyrillian sector who seek the truth," he declared, extending his hand to her in a gesture of alliance. The relief was palpable among Nathan and Eli as they shook hands with their former adversaries. The remainder of the evening was spent planning their next steps, the former hunters sharing their knowledge of secure communication channels and strategic contacts that could aid their cause. As dawn broke over the alien landscape, a new alliance had been forged. What began as a night of confrontation had transformed into a hopeful collaboration, the group now united by a common cause far greater than their individual survival. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but together they faced it with a renewed sense of purpose and a formidable new bond. With their newly formed alliance cementing overnight, Nathan, Zara, Rael, and the rest of the group prepared for a crucial expedition deep into the heart of Delta 7. Rael had divulged information about a hidden installation, a remnant of an ancient civilization believed to possess technology capable of broadcasting signals across galaxies. This ancient site, located in the perilous terrain known as the Dark Rift, was their next destination. Before dawn, the group gathered their supplies, checking and rechecking their equipment. Eli, with his geological expertise, outlined the safest path through the rift, though safe was a relative term on such a treacherous planet. The rift is filled with chasms and unpredictable weather patterns, Eli warned as they studied the map spread out before them on a flat rock. But it also houses some of the densest deposits of ununpentium, a rare mineral that can amplify energy outputs dramatically. Zara, donning her rugged gear, nodded understandingly. That mineral could power the ancient device, assuming it's still operational. This might be our only chance to send a clear message home. The journey began at first light, with Rael and his team leading the way. The landscape gradually changed as they ventured deeper into the rift, the ground becoming steeper and the air cooler. Mists swirled around them, obscuring their vision, while distant roars of unseen creatures echoed off the stone walls, a stark reminder of the planet's ever-present dangers. Halfway through their trek, a sudden storm swept over them. The wind howled, threatening to sweep them off their narrow path. Nathan and Rael worked together to anchor the group, using their combined strength to pull members back from the precipice as the storm raged around them. Once the storm passed, they found themselves at the mouth of a cavern, the entrance marked by ancient symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. Zara traced the symbols with her fingers, a sense of awe in her voice. These are the markings of the old empire, a civilization that predates our current understanding by millennia. The cavern was vast, the walls lined with intricate carvings that told stories of a long-forgotten past. At its center stood the device, as Rael had described, a towering structure of metal and stone, its surface etched with more glowing symbols. Eli immediately set to work, examining the device and the mineral deposits that encrusted it. The ununpentium is here, just as I suspected. We'll need to extract it carefully and integrate it into the device's power matrix. The extraction was delicate work, requiring precision and patience. Meanwhile, Nathan and Zara stood guard, watching the cavern entrances for any sign of the monstrous creatures that roamed the rift. As night fell, Eli successfully integrated the mineral into the device. With a deep breath, Zara activated it. A hum filled the air, growing louder as the ancient technology came to life. The device's core glowed brightly, casting long shadows across the cavern walls. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. A monstrous creature, attracted by the noise and light, was approaching. The group readied themselves for a confrontation, weapons drawn and eyes wide with adrenaline. The beast that emerged was unlike any they had encountered before, massive, with armored skin and multiple glaring eyes. It roared, a sound that shook the cavern. Nathan stepped forward, firing his weapon to draw the creature's attention. Rael and his team joined the fray, their shots coordinated and precise. Zara, using her knowledge of alien physiology, directed them to target the creature's less protected underbelly. After a fierce battle, the creature lay defeated, the silence that followed punctuated only by their heavy breathing. The group returned their focus to the device, which was now fully operational. Zara approached the console, entering the coordinates and the message they had prepared, a plea for peace and a call to expose the corruption within the Tyrillian sector. As the signal broadcasted, piercing the cosmos, the group felt a collective sense of accomplishment and hope. They had faced the heart of darkness on Delta 7 and emerged not just unscathed, but triumphant. Now, all they could do was wait for a response, their fates intertwined with the ancient echoes of a long-dead civilization. The morning after the signal was sent, the cavern seemed to hum with the residual energy of the ancient device. Nathan, Zara, and the rest of the group gathered around, discussing the potential outcomes of their actions. The successful activation of the ancient broadcaster had given them a sliver of hope, but they were acutely aware that their message might not reach the right ears, or any ears at all. The signal was strong, but there's no telling how far it reached or who might intercept it, Eli commented, checking the device's readouts for any signs of response. Rael, who had been communicating quietly with his team, looked up. Our next steps need to be carefully planned. If our leaders are indeed corrupt, they'll try to suppress any response to our call. Zara nodded in agreement. We need to prepare for all possibilities. If help comes, we must ensure they find us. If our call is unanswered, or worse, if it's met with hostility, we must be ready to defend ourselves and continue our mission here. The group decided to split tasks. Nathan and Rael focused on fortifying the cavern's entrances, turning the natural formations into strategic choke points. Eli and Zara worked on optimizing the device for a continuous broadcast, sending out repeating signals at intervals to maximize the chances of contact. As they worked, a tension filled the air, a mix of hope and the creeping dread of potential discovery. They were interrupted by a sudden shift in the device's output. The screen flashed, indicating an incoming transmission. Everyone rushed to the console. Zara, with her understanding of the ancient technology, navigated the interface, and a voice, crackling and distant, filled the cavern. "This is Commander Alex Varden of the Galactic Peace Coalition. We received your transmission. Coordinates locked. Preparing a rescue mission. Hold your position." Relief washed over the group, followed closely by a surge of excitement. Help was coming. But their joy was short-lived as another realization set in. They had to ensure the rescue team could safely reach them, which meant securing the area against both the planet's monstrous inhabitants and potential interference from Tyrillian forces. "We have a few days at most before any rescue operation could be mounted," Nathan estimated, turning to Rael. "We need to secure a perimeter, set up surveillance, and prepare for any sort of engagement." Rael agreed, immediately setting his team to the task. "We'll need to utilize every tactic at our disposal. Our goal isn't just to survive now, it's to last long enough to be rescued." The days that followed were a blur of activity. The group established patrols, monitored the surrounding terrain, and fortified their position within the cavern. Eli continued to tweak the broadcaster, ensuring the signal remained strong and uninterrupted. Amid the preparations, Zara took a moment to speak with Nathan. "Regardless of what happens, I want you to know how much your support has meant to me," she said, her gaze intense and sincere. Nathan smiled, a rare, genuine expression that spoke volumes. "We're in this together, Zara. We started as strangers, but now we stand as allies, as friends. We'll see this through no matter what." As the time for the expected rescue drew nearer, the group maintained a vigilant watch. The planet seemed to sense the impending change, the wildlife becoming increasingly restless. Then, on the expected day, as tension peaked, the sound of approaching spacecraft broke the oppressive silence of Delta 7. The group gathered outside, watching as ships bearing the insignia of the Galactic Peace Coalition descended through the atmosphere. Their gamble had paid off. The rescue was here. As the ships landed, the group was ready to meet their potential saviors, armed with hope and prepared for any final obstacles that might arise in their quest for justice and peace. The struggle was far from over, but this moment marked a significant victory, a testament to their resilience and the power of unlikely alliances. The cavern buzzed with activity as members of the Galactic Peace Coalition disembarked from their ships, equipped and prepared for any complications. Their leader, Commander Alex Varden, approached Zara and her group with a mix of authority and relief visible on her face. "Princess Zara, we've been briefed on your situation," Commander Varden announced, her voice resonant and clear. "Your message was intercepted and corroborated by our intelligence. We are here not only to rescue you, but to ensure the evidence of your claims reaches all necessary channels within the Galactic Council." Nathan and Rael stepped forward, exchanging salutes with the commander, who nodded appreciatively at their readiness. "We owe you our gratitude for safeguarding the princess and the integrity of this mission," she said, acknowledging their efforts. As the initial formalities concluded, Zara addressed her rescuers with composure and dignity. "Thank you, Commander. My allies here, both human and Tyrillian, have shown bravery and commitment that deserve recognition beyond mere words. We must discuss how to proceed with exposing the corruption that threatens our sectors." Commander Varden agreed, and they quickly moved to establish a secure area for debriefing. The conversation turned to strategic discussions about the dissemination of the evidence and the protection of those who were now at risk due to their involvement. Meanwhile, Eli took the Coalition's technical team to the ancient device, explaining how they had used it and how it might serve as a tool for peace in future diplomatic efforts. The team was impressed by the integration of the ununpentium mineral and proposed that the site be preserved as a historical and technological research station. As the day progressed, plans were made for their departure from Delta 7. Zara, with a lightness in her step, took a moment to stand beside Nathan, looking out at the landscape that had been both a prison and a crucible. "Leaving this planet feels like leaving a part of myself behind," she confessed. It forged me in ways I could never have imagined. Nathan smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're leaving it behind, but you're taking the strength it gave you. That's invaluable. Their conversation was interrupted as Commander Varden approached, signaling that it was time to board the ships. The group said their farewells to the rugged terrain of Delta 7, boarding the spacecraft that would take them back to civilization. As the ships ascended, leaving the planet's surface behind, Zara looked back through the viewport. Delta 7 had been a harsh teacher, but it had also been the birthplace of new hopes and alliances. She felt a profound sense of closure, knowing that the challenges ahead would require the same resilience and unity they had shown on the surface. The journey back was filled with discussions about the future, plans for trials, public disclosures, and potential reforms within the Tyrillian sector. Zara was at the forefront of these plans, her experience on Delta 7 having prepared her to lead such efforts. Upon their arrival at the Galactic Council, the evidence was presented and the proceedings began. The revelations of corruption stirred wide-reaching debates and actions across multiple sectors. Zara's role as a peace advocate was solidified, and her alliance with humanity stood as a testament to the potential for unity and understanding across species. The story of their survival and fight for justice spread far and wide, inspiring other sectors to scrutinize their governance and seek reform. Zara, Nathan, and their companions watched these developments, knowing their actions on Delta 7 had sparked a broader movement towards peace and transparency in the galaxy. In the end, the legacy of their time on Delta 7 was not just about survival. It was about igniting change and fostering hope across civilizations. As Zara adapted to her new role, she carried with her the indomitable spirit of those harrowing days, ready to face whatever new challenges awaited with unwavering courage and the support of her steadfast allies.